What's up, everybody? Welcome to the podcast. I've got Seth Mason with me right now. And, on this podcast, what we're doing right now is it's a living forward kind of concept. And the idea is I love talking to people who are moving forward, who are moving ideas forward, moving society forward, moving business forward. Right now, as we're talking, if you're watching this in the future, we're in quarantine still from the coronavirus. And Seth, I think it's awesome to talk to you, man, because when you're thinking about how can you stay in business, how can you be thriving, how can you still be creating when you have to be inside all the time, obviously anything virtual, anything online is the obvious way to go. And I think everybody out there kind of thinks, I should have some sort of online presence, or they at least know that that is something that is an option. They may not have started it. They may not even know where to start, which is why I think it's really cool to talk to you. You're 22 right now. You just had your birthday a few days ago, so happy birthday. Start
yes,
off.
Yeah, appreciate it.
When did you start all of this? So let's go to the beginning, because I love just finding out. You have Seth Socks, you have the Johnstown Steel, which is a part of American Esports. You have your Entrepreneur U Academy. But going back to how old were you when this all started to happen for you?
Yeah, so growing up, I grew up in a family business. So my parents own a screen printing embroidery place. They've owned that for over 20 years now. So I really got to learn, the fundamentals of business really since I was 10 years old, just doing T-shirts, sorting stuff out. I remember even skipping school. My mom would be like, no, you're not skipping school and laying around. You're going to help, build trophies or, do something where I actually have to sit there and work. I'll never forget, her customers coming in. I'm just sitting there they're asking, should you be at school? And she's like, no, he just took the day off to work today. So, I took that fundamentals and stuff and learning and the management side of it and some of the finances, because my parents are very open with it. So how can I translate that to now what I'm doing? And especially with the socks that started my sophomore year of high school when I was 15 years old. I'll never forget that. We literally started in my parents' garage. My parents had some equipment, again, having some of the T-shirts and capabilities like that. We started testing. Again, I'll never forget walking in one day at school. It was breakfast time, 7:30, 7:40 a.m. My dad sends me a text message saying, hey, we think we finally figured it out. Here's the first, design of the customized socks that he created. It was terrible designs, yellow, had these weird old school flames on them. It looked very bad, but it was pretty cool. I'll never forget that moment where I was walking out there. I was super excited to go home and look at them and put them on and take pictures. It was, again, I was only 15 years old and I never knew it would ever get to this point where I'm at today and how I've really grown from this and really learned it. Again, it was all because my parents, helped me out and they basically gave me the open book to learn everything. Again, I was doing that since 10 years old. So really, I'm 22 now. So I basically have 12 years of business experience and learning everything and seeing my parents' failures, so that way I understand what they did wrong. So that way I don't do it for my business or, some of my employees or anything like that. So again, it all started very young and thankful for my parents to that, help me really jumpstart it.
Very cool, man. I think what you're saying right here in the beginning is really important to remember that, and I think anybody who has entrepreneur parents, which I didn't have entrepreneur kind of parents, a lot of people don't. So if you had that kind of experience in your life, obviously that's huge. Now, if you don't have that sort of experience in your life, my best advice would be to go online, find entrepreneurs online, find people who are creating their own thing online. And, whether you're buying courses or you're just watching your video content, there's many different ways of soaking in that knowledge, soaking in that information and getting that education without having somebody there in person. But if you can find somebody like a mentor in person, that's always the best way to go. And you kind of had that in your house, you were living with that in your house. So that's the best way to go about it. If you can have that opportunity, that's huge, man. So cool. So with Seth Socks, and by the way, just so people know who are watching this from central Pennsylvania or anywhere else in the world, you're from Crescent, is that right?
Yeah, I currently live in Crescent, but I grew up and graduated from Northern Cambria.
So small town. What's the number of people who live in Crescent?
Crescent,
100?
2,000. Yeah, maybe 50.
Right.
Yeah, so there's not too many people. So yeah, exactly. So it's I'm not living in a big city or from a big city or even a big town. We're talking 2,000-3,000 people in Northern Cambria maximum. So I mean, again, but the world and the internet, they live on there. So you're reaching millions of people every day.
Yeah.
So that's the advantage.
It's so cool. So all right, so Seth Socks, how did that happen? So you're 15 years old, you start doing sock design, and this would have been what? So if it was 7 years ago, we're talking, 2013, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
Talk about that. How did that all come to be? Because I think that's the kind of business, right? A sock business, a custom-made sock business that's the kind of thing that really, and this isn't a knock on you in any way, but anybody could do that, right? You know, as
Yeah.
far as like creating those companies online, apparel companies, those sorts
Oh, yeah.
of things. How did that all happen for you?
Yeah, so like I said, my dad figured out that design. We were doing it in my parents' garage. I'd go home. We started on my dad's eBay account. So he used to sell like old sporting goods back in the day. So he had like feedback and like a lot of 5-star ratings. So we just basically took his account and platform and started selling on there. Sold the first pair of socks. These were custom Nike Elite socks for $55 on eBay. So that's when my parents knew as well, like, wow, this might be something serious that he kind of, found out. And I always loved wearing cool socks. Before I even started my own brand, I was always wearing the crazy colored ones and stuff like that. So I always had like an interest and passion for socks, but we never knew it'd be this big where, wow, we just sold a pair of freaking socks for $50. Like that was the reaction. Like they couldn't believe it. Especially back in 2013. So that's when we started on eBay. We were selling maybe like 5-10 a day. Like that was really exciting. Having fun with that on eBay. And then we transitioned to Etsy. Again, this is all within like the first year and a half. Is selling this, and we created our own Etsy account. And that's when Etsy again was becoming a new platform, so we got on there early. Now eBay is more saturated, so that's why we transitioned from the eBay to the Etsy and selling. And then obviously Amazon came around then. 2014, 2015, Amazon was really starting to take off, so that's when we started to transition over to there. But again, every day after school, I was going home. Socks were ready to go. I had to go package them, print out the labels, put them on it, each single package, and take them over to the post office. And that's what I did every single day after school. I would just run home and do that till like 5-6 o'clock. And that was, again, 14, 15, 16 years old doing it. So
do you know anybody else who was your age who was doing that? Like anybody in your school or anybody in your life who had that kind of drive that you had, or were you kind of by yourself on that?
Yeah, I was kind of by myself, and that's why a lot of people kind of, really didn't understand it. Like they thought it was kind of stupid. I'll never forget like getting made fun of too, like in school for, the socks. Like all the kids, older kids, would tease me, the seniors, juniors, et cetera, would be like, oh, nice socks. Wow, nice socks. Like they understand it. So that's why they made fun of it. But little did they know it was something that was turning into something bigger and bigger each day that I, continued to move on. We got to work with professional athletes. I'll never forget this. Silver medalists in the 2012 Olympics. His name's Manuel Mitchell. He actually broke his leg and finished the race. It was pretty inspirational. He reached out to us again on eBay, and he was like our very first like influencer or someone that has some real following behind him. He was an Under Armour official athlete, now Nike. So I'll never forget that. And again, these are people that are making fun of me, but they don't realize I'm working with these people or talking to this person and getting this email from Frito-Lay or General Mills or just even this past year, Mondelez Nabisco, which they won 500 pair of Oreo socks. So just getting these random emails that people think, oh, these are just, socks. Who cares? And they're cool. But I mean, it turned into something very big. And again, at a young age, I was kind of like blown away, and I took that experience and, I failed a lot. There wasn't always perfect. And again, dealing with those failures has kind of built what I've had today. So.
No doubt. Yeah, I think a couple of important things there, man. Like whenever you're building something, especially something online that might be being sold to people around the world and not in your town, people can kind of look at it and be like, that's a waste of time. That's the thing you're doing is stupid, just kind of like knocking it because they don't get it. And that's okay. It's actually good when people don't get it, because that means you're a bit ahead of the curve, right? When other people haven't quite caught on yet, it means you're usually onto something they don't quite understand. Like if you were out there doing landscaping or, cutting somebody's grass or something like that, that's something tangible people can see and they get how you're making money off it. But when you're selling something online, it's a whole different story. People can't really visually track that unless they're like in your life and they know what you're doing. So especially if you're listening to this and you're in school where you have people in your life who are kind of, they don't get it. It's fine if people don't get it, but when they start knocking you for it, that can really be discouraging to a lot of people.
Oh yeah.
But if you believe in it and you can see the results coming from it, and also if it's making you happy, then just keep doing it, because the people who are saying what they're saying, they just don't understand. They don't have the same mindset. And man, you were lucky enough to have two parents there, I guess, who were able to get in your head with the entrepreneur mentality, not the 9-to-5 mentality, right? And that's a huge piece of the puzzle that I think it seems like now it's catching on a lot more because of everybody on the internet who's out there giving great advice. But if not, you got to find the right people. You've got to keep that going in your head. And as far as like failing, so talk about that. I shouldn't say failing, it's experimenting. So you experimented, you fell down a couple of times, you screwed up. what did that look like? Like, what was your biggest setback with Seth Socks that you could talk about? That was maybe seemed like a disaster, but ended up being a great lesson moving forward.
Yeah, so like even during the Christmas time, like we'd get a bunch of orders, to the point where we'd have 300 orders just in a day, 250, 300 a day. This during Christmas time. I'll never forget this, back in around 2015, 2016. We had all these orders come in. We couldn't even keep up. Like it was getting to the point where it was overwhelming. It was a grind. Like I would wake up like 10 a.m., print until like 5, 6 o'clock for the post office. Then I would just go out to eat. I would play video games for a couple of hours. And I would print from like 10 p.m. to like 2 a.m., 3 a.m. And I would do that consistently. So that was something, that we weren't even still getting caught up. So I felt like even though I was putting all this extra time in and these hours, we had a whole team of my friends and, my parents were helping out, we still couldn't get caught up. That felt like a failure in itself. Even though we were doing well, it was just like, wow, like, what are we doing wrong that we can't keep up? Or what can we do better next time to plan ahead so that way we don't get so far behind? Or is there a simple way to, streamline this process where we're not spending so much time on this or that? So really just reflect. It wasn't so much like a failure, like you said. It's just kind of an experiment where you never experienced it before. So now experience that Christmas time rush. Okay, how do I better plan for this next year? And then obviously Amazon Prime's huge now. So that even this year we sent a bunch of socks to Amazon Prime. So that way they handle the fulfillment. We print them during our slower times. And that way we mass printed them and then sent them to Amazon. So that way they can fulfill the orders and we don't have to worry about that. So, I mean, just that and alone, saved us so much time and effort during the busy time. And that's one I'll remember pretty much. That's the biggest one.
It's cool because right now, and I'm sure you know about drop shipping, what drop shipping is all about, but like drop shipping is huge. And I even experimented with it for a number of months and had some success, but you did it, the way it really should be done. Like if you want to figure out how to do the whole process, you were getting the socks, you were shipping them yourself, you were doing the whole thing. Drop shipping is kind of a situation where you're pulling from somebody else's product, reselling it, upselling it, and making some money off of it. But you got like a crash course in everything by having to go through and sell it yourself.
Yeah, so I had, like I said, my own brand of socks that got manufactured overseas. And they came in blank whites, and then you actually had to physically hand print these socks. So that's what makes them unique. Each one's actually hand printed by myself,
wow.
Or my friends or my dad. Someone's actually putting some blood, sweat, and tears into each press of the sock. So each one's unique and each one's customized to you. So yeah, and then like I said, drop shipping is more so they're already pre-made and then they ship it out for you, and you're just that middleman that's selling it on your website for a little higher cost and taking that profit.
Yeah.
We were actually like printing them, doing all the shipping, everything, all the prep work. Yeah, it was a whole production, whole team around it and supporting it to make sure it worked every single day. And it is a little time consuming, but it still is very fun to do and kind of see where all the orders would come from around the world. So from like Hong Kong, Australia, Philippines, Italy, France, you name it, the socks have been there, all across the USA, Canada, Mexico. It's pretty cool again to see those orders come through, to see like, wow, someone ordered this from Canada today, or California. Even it's a pretty cool thing. Like just halfway across the country, I'm a random kid from northern Cambridge, PA, and I got people from around the world buying my socks.
Right.
So it's just a pretty cool thing to reflect on. And now I'm getting into more of a retail thing. So it's called Abound, is the platform that I'm on, where these retail stores are now getting on, and there's reps from like Walmart, Target, Dick's Sporting Goods. So now I'm trying to tailor my brand into maybe some sort of retail and kind of testing that market. Like small boutique shops, privately owned stores, small businesses. And that's really starting to take off just in the past 6 months. So again, they're in probably about a dozen stores now, little small boutiques around the country.
So cool, dude. It's so cool. If you want to check out the socks, and you would never know that they were made, in northern Cambria, you would never, or in Crescent, you would never guess that because they look super high quality. Like when somebody sees the website, it looks like a major manufacturer is printing them, which I mean, that's the possibilities of what's going on right now. If you check out sethsocks.com, you can see all the designs and get a pair for yourself. But so you went from that. Now you got into college. Obviously, you were probably already a gamer, I would imagine.
Yes. Yep.
Just yourself personally.
Yep.
And that's when you started a Altoona e-gaming or esports, like while you were in college. Is that right? How did you go from the Seth Socks, that thing's rocking and rolling, and then you're like, all right, I'm going to start doing esports as well? Or was that not the intention? The intention just to have fun on the side?
I mean, being an entrepreneur, I'm always thinking of new ideas and seeing new trends. And I see esports as one of these biggest trends here, the common area that we're living in right now. It's still growing to this point where it's going to be one of the biggest industries here in the next 2 years, if not already. So I was a sophomore at Penn State Altoona. And then I had some local friends as well, roommates of mine that were both gamers as well. So we kind of shared that little passion, that bond when we were hanging out. And we just had this idea of throwing a Madden tournament. This was on Super Bowl weekend, February 2018. I created a Facebook page right after class, started promoting this tournament on Facebook. Never forget, we'd go around after class. I'd go around the city of Altoona and just, get makeshift TV stands and stuff where, my friends would bring over their stuff from IUP or UPJ. They would bring over their TVs and Xboxes, and we were all getting together, making this big production, this event, just for fun. It was, it was nothing really something out of it. It was just something to do. And then we had 25 people show up. So then it was like, okay, people were coming from Pittsburgh, Harrisburg to Altoona, Pennsylvania at a college apartment. So it wasn't very fancy. We had 6 stations. We bought a bunch of food. And people came to us, said, I've been to tournaments in Pittsburgh and State College. This is the best one by far. And I'm in my college apartment, I'm looking around I can't believe this is actually real. But I'll never forget, just hustling to get that done. Like I said, all the TV stands. We'd go around campus, put up flyers. Even my one friend, Cody, he's going to be watching this. He went in the library. You're not allowed to put flyers in the library. He would just go around. He would sneak around and put the flyers on the tables and across the library, just so people would find out. We actually did have students from Penn State, coming to the tournament just because of that. And we were putting on all the bulletin boards. We were putting signs up across the town and little community around the college. So, it turned out something, just being, something fun. And we were just going to try it and have fun with it. Then it turned out to be something that was very successful, with 25 people showing up for that $500 prize in a college apartment, February 2018. Then we transitioned in March to an actual facility. It was about 1,500 square feet. We had 8 stations, just Xbox and PlayStations. So again, something small. We were starting to do tournaments, maybe integrate some birthday parties. But we just started off doing tournaments, and that's when we had Fortnite. That's when Fortnite again was blowing up. March 31st, which was my birthday, 2018, we had 162 people show up from literally across the East Coast. So we had from New York, New Jersey, Philly, Pittsburgh, West Virginia, Maryland, DC, all the way down to Virginia. People were driving 5 to 6 hours for this Fortnite tournament in Altoona, Pennsylvania, sold out event for, I think it was $800 or no, $1,200, excuse me. So literally $1,200, they were driving 5 hours just because, this was something new. It wasn't really around in their areas, in the big cities yet. So I was on to something very early again. And that's when we really figured out, wow, we may be on something serious than we even thought. And again, that event was successful. We had 162 people, but it was also a complete failure. I'll never forget that. And it started at 10 a.m. I don't think we got done till around 2 to 3 a.m. And this was on my birthday, 2018 in college, 19 years old at the time, 1920. So it was it was a grind, and it was fun again because I got to do it with my friends, and we kind of experienced it and doing that. I have that rush for things, especially creating and building and marketing, and now seeing that final product of that day of it was pretty cool to see. So
that was just what was the failure about that? I mean, you packed the place, you had a great turnout. What went wrong with it that you didn't like?
Yeah, so we couldn't control the Fortnite servers. They went down, so there was so much delay in that. So that was something we couldn't control, but there was a lot we could control, like our match times for our rules system, for instance. Players were playing in matches too long. They were playing for an hour and a half, 2 hours. We only estimated for them to be playing for 45 to an hour, 45 minutes to an hour. So that was one. And then also we had so many people, we oversold actually. We had 160 people in this little, 1,500 square foot place. It was narrow. There's people everywhere. I have pictures. I'm sure we can post or show the people what I'm actually talking about. But it was craziness, and to the point where we had to cancel the site. So another mistake is I planned 2 events on the same day. So I had all these people come for 2 different events, and the one just completely went over time, by 3 or 4 hours, and we had to give refunds for the other one. Everyone's starting to get angry, a little mad that they've been sitting around waiting. So we called everyone in this auditorium. My friend had the bullhorn, and he's yelling, saying, "Hey, we're really behind. We'll issue some refunds or anything. We're sorry for the advance. It's our first time doing it." And I think everyone appreciated what we were doing because they saw we were young, we were trying something. So no one was really mad because the people that were mad, they just took their refund. They didn't say anything too harsh. But everyone else, majority of people stayed around. We still had 130 people stay around and wait. So, I mean, they weren't really mad. They were just kind of excited to be a part of this community and kind of interact with all these people from across really the East Coast. And they were just kind of talking to each other and having fun. And again, that was a failure in itself, but it was also a positive where we saw it. how this could really take off in this opportunity. But we also learned from that mistake. Okay, don't overbook, don't have 2 events. Okay, let's overestimate the time to actually play in these games or anything. And this, again, we could take this and apply this to any business that I'm now doing. I'm going to look back on March 31st, 2018 is like a doomsday on my birthday. But okay, next business, I got to make sure, how do I avoid a situation like this or a scenario like this? So
Right.
yeah, definitely crucial to my success was failing early. So again, I can't stress this enough, just experiment, try, fail earlier, because it made me learn now going forward not to do that again. And it helped when I was my first month in doing that.
Right. You know, I think that the really important part of it, what you're saying is so true, man. What I find myself is that when you don't start something, you can never fail, which is why most people don't start, the fear of failure. If you're going to make something work, you've got to just dive in and do it eventually. You're never going to get it perfect the first time out. I just held like a leadership conference about a month ago at the Blair County Convention Center, which went really well. Super happy. Over 300 people came, great turnout. Now, there was at least 24 things that could have been better. You know what I mean? There were so many things that I felt were screwed up. Some that were in my control, some were out of my control. But it was like, okay, this is what happens. And especially like with what you're saying, it's okay. It's not as painful when you just you screw something up, but it's just on you and only you or a couple people know about it. But when you screw something up and like there's hundreds of people who were there witnessing it, it feels so much like, oh God, what did I do? I could never do this again if I messed it up. And you know, that's number one, the reason to do something that you really love doing is because then whenever you do it, you're not just worried about how did it go, you're also having fun. It's also a part of like your passion. It's something you're into. So even if it's a struggle, at least you enjoy it. But you know, number two, like it's just the fact that you just did it, you pulled it off. And it was, like you said, like you were just some kids trying to pull this thing off. I think anybody on any level should feel that way. When you're just trying something and you're doing it because you want to have fun or you want to help people or you want to bring people together and you're creating some sort of community, then it doesn't really matter how it goes unless it goes horribly wrong. I don't know. There could be a cutoff there somewhere, and I guess the failure scale. But either way, just look at it like as I'm trying this thing out. This is an experiment. Let's see how it goes. And then whenever things do go wrong, mark down the things that went wrong and you can fix them for next time. You know, it's just like figuring out those lessons. And I think I was just talking to Charlie Brennan yesterday. He's a former UFC fighter. And we've been talking about marketing and things like that because he's trying to get his own marketing brand going. And we were really just getting deep on how exactly do you, the fail forward idea of getting people to just try stuff. Like, how do you get somebody to finally try something? Because usually what happens, people will deliberate and they'll just have ideas for their whole life and never actually try any of them instead of just diving into one and giving it a shot. And I think from what you're talking about, dude, the big lessons here with Seth Socks, with American Esports, is that you got to just dive in because you like it and you have enough knowledge about it that you can dive in with some like expertise and then figure it out along the way. People want to have things all figured out before they launch. That's impossible. You can have a plan. That plan's not going to happen. Like pieces of that plan might happen, but the whole plan's not going to work the way you want it to. And that's a good thing. And I think this is something we don't learn in schools. And that's why, like, going back to mentors, whether it's your parents or somebody online or somebody else in your life, you need those people to tell you, hey, this is how it's going to go. It's not going to happen the way you want it to. You're going to figure it out as you move forward. You had mentioned trends a minute ago. You caught the trend of esports. Do you study trends? Do you study what's going on in the world and things that are trending that you can jump on board with, or is that just something that you kind of innately just fell into?
I study, like I always keep up with like news and social media constantly every day, seeing what's trending, what's going on in the world, and kind of taking notes and how, okay, this is something that I could capitalize on. And you see it every day. There's opportunity everywhere you look. You just have to kind of key in on a niche and find it. But anywhere you look, even in small town, Johnstown or Altoona, or wherever you may live, there's opportunity in your town. You just don't see it. You're just not looking hard enough. And people always overlook, these towns that are starting to deteriorate a little bit, but that presents opportunities. And I feel like that's what a lot of people are overlooking. It's not so much just studying, and it's just find your niche, focus on something, and again, find out what you're passionate about, and figure out, okay, is there something around in this industry or in this niche that I can kind of focus in on and do. And especially for, anything like esports or marketing, if you like marketing, okay, figure out, do you want to be like a social media person, or do you want to be like, content creation more so with YouTube, or, Facebook videos or stuff like that. Just find your niche to start off on, and then you can start to expand and beyond, your horizons you initially, set out to, go into that market. And so that's what I was saying. Like you said, going back to your mentor point about, having a team surrounding you and like a support system is crucial. Like I said, my friends helping me, I probably had half a dozen friends help me in the esports side when I was starting that out, and they continue to help me out. Like I still have friends still to this day helping me out, and I keep them involved with what I'm doing. And again, having that support system, having the mentors, the parents, just people you can talk to, because again, being an entrepreneur, it's not so much about the physical toll, it's about the mental toll. Because I'll never, forget about, the contemplating the decision of either continuing the business or going back to school, specifically for the esports in the summer of 2018, and just sitting there late at night, like 2, 3 I'm just like breaking down. I have no idea what I like. Do I continue to do this? It's a risk, or do I go back to school, take the safe alternative route, and maybe get a job after and do the 9-to-5 thing, or find something else, or just take that risk? And I had people around me that I could just talk to and kind of contemplate. And that's when, again, American Esports came. They found me through a WJAC article. So again, something that wasn't very relevant or big. Oh, only WJAC came in. But like any publicity is good publicity. So they were able to find me through that article online. And then they were able to come up, send me an email. Again, this was probably August. So right before I was trying to go back to school, July, August, they sent me this email saying, "Hey, Seth, we like what you're doing. We want to come up and talk to you about potentially joining our team in American Esports, full time, and, kind of transition over your center that you built up from the ground up." Like I said, it was all like hand-me-downs for my center. So I didn't go out. I didn't have, a budget of $50,000, $100,000 just go spend on all this stuff and like, okay, I'm going to, hopefully this works. I scaled it. So I started small in my apartment. I got a smaller place, invested a little more capital, and then went to the Gallery Mall in summer of 2018. Again, only small capital investments throughout until I tested that process. So again, someone sitting back here saying, "Oh, I don't have enough money," or "I can't do this." Even just the drop shipping method, you can go in with as little as a couple $100 and you're good to go. So, I mean, there's no excuse. I hate hearing the excuse saying, "Oh, well, he had all the money and you do that." But you can literally start out with nothing, a couple $100 like I did. And I just knew friends and connections that could help support you. And that's all it really is.
Yeah, man. I mean, the excuses are always just a way to justify the thing that you're afraid of doing. It's you're afraid of failing, and that's been something that's been a theme in my life as well. It's like so many ideas of things that I wanted to start and never did, just because, oh, what if I do and then I can't figure it out? Like, what if I do and it's difficult? Like, it's always going to be difficult, right? It's not going to be like a super smooth sailing, easy situation. But if you like it and you're excited about it, and you can see results from it, and people are getting hyped about it, then I mean, that's the whole point of life, is to like create something that helps other people and also helps you along the way. Like there's really no downside, because you're going to learn a lot, even if the thing that you wanted to create does end up tanking or going under. Man, you learn so much for the next thing that you're going to launch.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
with what you're saying, like, I think right now, this is why I think these interviews are super important right now, is that we've got a lot of people out there who are scared. There's a lot of fear. Everybody's stuck inside. And the world's in a strange, chaotic kind of place right now. That means nobody's paying attention to what you're doing. That means it's time to double down on the thing you always wanted to do. It's like people are worried about all this other stuff that's going on. You can block out the world right now, double down on the thing you want to create, and start doing it. And that's why these messages need to get out there. And I always talk to people about starting a podcast. I always last year I taught maybe 10 classes on how to start a podcast for under $50. That's something I'm going to bring online here soon. But the biggest thing I always got was, all of these questions about the right equipment, where should I broadcast from, what platform should I use? And I would give suggestions, but my point is, like, it doesn't matter if you have the best equipment. It doesn't matter if you have the best professional voice. None of that stuff matters. Nope. It doesn't matter if you have the biggest guest in the world on your podcast. If you're not consistent with it, and you're not doubling down on you and your own personal development, it's not going to work. So you said a little bit ago, it's not about the physical things that you've created. It's about the mental world that you've created. It's about your mental game. That is really where it's at. So that's something I've learned from being an entrepreneur the past 3 years, is that when I want to do something, I could have all the pieces lined up. I could get all the opportunity. But if my mental game is not strong enough to believe in myself and believe what I'm doing and believe what I'm creating, then I can forget about all of it. I can just throw everything away, because if you don't have yourself set up mentally to succeed, you could succeed and still lose. You could just self-sabotage the whole way through. You know what I mean? And we've seen this from celebrities. Celebrities do that. They become super famous and then self-sabotage and self-destruct and fall apart. Like, it's so important to get the mental part of your life right. When you get that part right, then everything else starts to fall in place, because you're operating on this level of confidence, this level of, you're sure. You don't have any doubts. You have conviction, and what you're going to do is going to work because you believe in yourself. And that's, man, is that important. So it's really cool to hear from you saying this. You started, so in 2 years' time, from your birthday in March 31st of 2018, and right now we're just a little bit past your birthday. What is it, like April 7th today of 2020? You went from starting an esports gaming 25 people in your apartment to 2 years later, you have the Johnstown Steel signed to American Esports, and you're traveling around the country doing esports, like conventions and conferences and stuff, right?
Yeah. So this is past, I had the opportunity to go to Hawaii in January, hang out at the Hula Bowl. So there's college football D1 athletes from, across the country there, LSU football players. It was a really cool experience. Again, being someone from Northern Cambria, to say, okay, you're going to go to Hawaii and business at 21 years old. It was almost like mind-blowing, to say the least. It was a pretty cool experience. Just, again, even so, my bosses I get to learn from as well. They have so many connections. They've worked with some of the biggest companies basically in the world, AT&T, Razor Game, like it's kind of crazy that I get to learn from these people every day as well. Again, being this kid from that small town and saying, okay, you're never going to make it. You're never going to get to that point. And now you're here learning from these people and just kind of those experiences. And again, I started in my college apartment and now I'm here not even, 2 years later, now spearheading the esports centers for American Esports for across country, and also helping with the high school league program and curriculum that we're unrolling here in the fall of this year for our local high schools in our region. So you'll be hearing about esports, and it's going to be coming in our area. I'm finally bringing technology to the forefront of our Western PA, schools, because we've always been lacking in that department, especially when I was there in school back in 2015, 2016. Is like, wow, we're so far behind in California and even Maryland, so much more advanced than what we are. So I want to bring in this new technology, advancement in this industry to these students and kind of showcase exactly what's going to be going on through this curriculum and the program. I'm really excited for that to launch in the fall through American Esports. I'm sure parents out there, students, you'll be hearing about it not only at the high school level, but the collegiate level. We've been working with St. Francis, get their esports program. They're actually offering scholarships for esports. So, and there's so many things specifically for the esports that's kind of already mind blowing. And again, it's one of those things that's so new around here. People don't understand it and they automatically write it off. So it's a whole education, scenario that we have to go through right now when pitching this and talking to parents and students and administrators and teachers about what the benefits are and what this actually is. It's more than the kids just playing video games. There's so much more technology behind this. With the computers, with the software, with the coding, all these are relevant jobs that these students will be learning. And that's what, again, is passionate about me is, okay, how can I help impact someone's life, student's life through this program? What would, if I had this opportunity when I was in school, what would I do with it? Especially with the graphic design and stuff like that, where it's really starting to take off again in the digital age, because that's where we're living right now. It's really starting to take off. So giving these kids this opportunity, again, this fall, it's going to be starting. I'm super excited for that. Again, this all started in a college apartment with a dream of just having a tournament. And now I'm doing something like this where I'm helping students and going into schools and talking. And that's what I do is right now I just went to Somerset back in January as well, talked to their students about entrepreneurship and about my story, and kind of just hoping to give them some motivation and, kicking the butt. They're 16, 17 years old. So, I mean, a lot of them even get emails from her, Mrs. George from Somerset, that she's like, yeah, you've definitely impacted my students. I could tell as soon as you're done talking, the next class, they're all like that they're so motivated. They want to ask questions. They're excited.
Yeah.
And they're always asking about what's going on with you and what you're doing. So it's a pretty cool story. It's always, cool to see those emails and stuff come through. That's probably the best part of what I'm doing.
No doubt, man. It's just so, even when I first talked to you, I was like, oh, wait a minute. He lives in Crescent. Okay. I'm trying to like put the pieces together. Like he's 22, lives in Crescent. How did he do all this? It's amazing just to put it in your brain, because whenever you're, especially as a student, trying to put that in your brain, and you sit there and you watch Twitch and you see all these guys who are, and girls who have millions and millions of followers on the platform and they're playing video games. Then you see the hundreds of millions that are playing that haven't done anything, that are just playing games and haven't made any sort of following. It's like, how does that even happen? But in your case, and 2 years, saying it right now sounds really quick, but 2 years in your own personal life is a long time. Like to add up all the time, it's when you say 2 years, it's like, oh wow, that happened overnight. But for you personally, that seems like, you can feel the span of time, the process of like, okay, daily putting that all together, plus running Seth Sucks at the same time. And I think, what you're saying, I really admire the fact that you're going to the schools and you're talking to the students, because, somebody like me, like I love going to schools and talking to students too. I do that. I like to mentor as much as I can. But I'm 36, right? So I'm a little bit out of the age range of like, oh, well, he's 36. He's a grown up. A grown up. I don't feel like I'm a grown up at all, but age-wise, I am. But then you coming in, you technically, you just graduated like 4 years ago. You can talk to somebody who's like 16 or 18, and they can actually see it.
Yeah,
like,
they can relate.
This is possible. So I want to ask you this question. This could be for anybody, because I know a lot of people who are trying to get into apparel, trying to sell, T-shirts, whatever, online. What are 3 solid pieces of advice for somebody starting some sort of like sock or apparel, T-shirt brand online? What's a couple of tips, simple things where they should start when doing that?
Yeah, so even before you start in research, so look at your competitors. So if you have anyone that you want to aspire to be for your brand, go on their website, look at them, look at their prices, look at their logo design, look at their materials. The research is number one, the most important thing, especially when you're trying to build out your own apparel line or even your own brand. So I would say, number one, research. Number two, again, kind of find some local people in your area to help you, like with designs, or maybe a local print shop in your area as well, because they're more willing to help you out just because you're someone that wants to get started, do something here locally in our area. They're more inclined to do that more so than someone overseas, or even some of these sites that just print on demand. So definitely research, try to find someone local on your team, even like a graphic designer or something, like an artist that you can team up with and kind of say, hey, you can, help design my, brand. You get a part of it, or maybe come out with your own line that we can do. Just an idea. But again, having a team and a support system around you is important as well. And I would say for the third one is making sure you know what you're doing on the marketing side, because that's number one, the biggest thing when you're trying to start a brand, because there's so many brands out there. They come up every single day. It's so easy to start a clothing brand or a company. Understanding how, social media ads work, or, when's the best time to post, just organic growth, how influencer marketing works, or how it can benefit from you. Even scheduling like photography shoots, or just cool lifestyle images that you can start promoting. So having those 3 things in place, the plan for, basically the research, that way you can build the website, or, basically copycat your competitors, because that's what literally business is. It's all just a copycat game, and who can now, one up each other and kind of copy each other and change it and put their own flavor and style to it.
Right.
Number 2, I said, just try and find that local person that you can help out, and see if you can get on your team to help you build this at a relatively low cost, and, cost to really invest. And then third being, understanding the marketing aspect, because that's your number one ticket to selling anything on the internet, is understanding how, the Facebook, Instagram, Twitter ads, TikTok ads now, how all those work, what's the requirement, and what you have to do for that. So I would say those are the 3 big things just to start off. It doesn't take too much time at all to really do that. You can start formalizing this plan that we talked about, even though, a plan is a plan, it might not necessarily work out that way, but it's nice to have that reference that you can look back on and take ideas and write notes down about. So.
No doubt, dude. I was just writing down some notes while you were talking, because this is important stuff. Like, when you're saying going online and finding the brands that you kind of want to model after. I'm a huge fan of modeling. So you got to find people that you admire who are doing it. Yeah. And then you can kind of figure out, how are they doing this? And then you can figure it out through them. And like you said, like information, knowledge and information like, we're not going to create, how should I say this? I feel like everything's already been said, everything's already been done. It's just, how do you take your own personal personality and interject that into other things, right? So you could be doing, I mean, I'm sure you're not the only sock company, obviously, but you put your own spin on it, you put your name on it. So that makes it stand out. So it has to have your personality. The only thing people can't copy, the only thing people can't duplicate is your own personal brand. And that's why personal branding is so important to me, and should be important to anybody, especially right now, to start figuring out how to do that personal brand. So I was going to say, when you're online studying these companies that that you want to be like, reach out to them as well. Usually they're pretty easy to get a hold of. You know, you can find if they have a Facebook and a Twitter and an Instagram and a YouTube and a TikTok. One of those platforms might have, you know, 1 million followers or a couple 100,000 followers. But one of those platforms is only going to have a couple of thousand or a couple of hundred. That's the one to DM them on. They're going to see those DMs and just do it until they get back to you, just to pick their brain, just to ask them questions. And most people are more than willing to help out, because we don't live in the scarcity world that we used to live in, where businesses are competing. Now it's more of like a collaborative community. At least that's what I find from most people. And then the marketing aspect, man, like, you have to learn digital marketing. There's no question. You've got to learn how to market online. So if you go through Grant Cardone or Billie Jean or Ty Lopez, Dean Graziosi, any of those guys, learn how to do online marketing. Go buy a course online from a reputable source. I mean, you can watch the YouTube videos. If you want to watch YouTube and learn it, you can do that. But I prefer like buying a course or actually having a mentor teach it to you. But those two things, dude, you cannot. If you do those right, you're gonna kill it, no doubt. And you're gonna get a leg up on. You're gonna skip 5 to 10 years of learning just by doing that. And then as far as esports go, so somebody wants to get into esports, they want to become successful on Twitch or something like that. What would your advice be to them?
Again, the consistency aspect to it. I've seen a lot of people that have blown up on Twitch or Mixer, another gaming streaming platform, is that they're constantly doing it. They're constantly streaming. They don't care about the numbers. They have a schedule. They stick to it, and they consistently do it. And that's really the number one way. And the only way, like you said, with any business or branding or anything that you want to do, is making sure you're going to put a schedule out there and you stick to it. And you're going to do it. Might be 7 days a week. But you just making sure you stick to that schedule, because that's the only way you're going to be able to grow it. People are going to tune in you for once a week. They're going to forget about you. But if you're consistently on there every day, they see posts, they see content, they're going to be more inclined to then engage with those social media posts or whatever you may be posting online. Especially with the esports, we're still relatively new, so there's still so much opportunity in the marketplace with new games coming out. Seems like every 3 months there's a new hit game that comes out. So there's opportunity every single time a game comes out to do something and grow your little niche and your brand in that game segment. So especially for esports, I could see that. And also, if you're interested in gaming, there's so many opportunities in the marketplace now for coaching, even for courses and stuff like that, where you can kind of teach the game to kids and just players. And also being a coach at like St. Francis or even Mount Aloysius we're working with too. They're hiring, esports coaches for this, just like any other varsity sport. So there's real opportunity in this if you like to do that. Obviously being like a broadcaster is something that's very, starting to really grow now with these big tournaments going online. ESPN literally just broadcasted the Rocket League Championship, I think 2 days ago, an NBA 2K tournament with NBA athletes. And again, this is all on ESPN. So it's really starting to take a mainstream approach, which you can't see that 5 years ago. It was always anti-gaming. Nobody cares really what's going on with it. Now we're at the forefront with this new generation of kids starting to grow up with it. This is all they're doing. They're watching people play games, and they're also playing the games. But there's a lot of opportunity, like I said, in Twitch. We're just looking out for these jobs, like being a graphic designer, like I said, or even someone on the back end coding for gaming. I mean, this isn't going to go anywhere. It's only going to get bigger and bigger with this new young generation surrounded by this technology. So, again, just consistently do whatever you want to do, making sure you're happy with what you're doing, and also just making sure you're finding that niche and whatever you want to do. Look at it, look into it, and find your place in that market.
So cool, man. And I think what you said there is so key. Make sure that you're enjoying it. Make sure that you're loving it. And if you think about it, dude, back in the day, skateboarding wasn't considered a sport. Back in the day, snowboarding wasn't. Slowly, and video games. That's a big leap. in sporting, I guess, but you know what I mean? It makes sense, because if you're really good at some of the, you know, Overwatch or Fortnite or any of those games, like that's a super talented skill that maybe you're not moving your entire body, but you're using a lot more of your brain. You know what
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean? It's just, it makes sense, but a lot of people just didn't see it coming, so they can't fathom, especially older people can't fathom how that could be a thing. But what the biggest, was it in Korea, South Korea, like the biggest sports event ever? Like they packed like 100,000 seat stadium or something like that for esports.
Yeah, it was South Korea, and then also they sold out Madison Square Garden here, and I think that was a year or two ago. I mean, this is a NBA stadium, 30,000 people here in America. It's already coming here, and then the Philadelphia Fusion Overwatch team is building a $30 million complex, or 30 million or 100 million. Yes, specifically dedicated for esports, and also it's gonna be used for concerts and stuff. But it's a big stage. The back room is crazy with all the gaming stations for practice of the players, and like a little locker room kind of approach. And there's a big stage with all the seating around. It's amazing what they're building out there. Again, this is for one video game, which is an esport, and then esports again is multiple games. There's so many different games that are considered esports. So again, there's so many opportunities to become a professional video game player, especially now where there's no real system in place, and that's what we're trying to do at the high school collegiate level. We're trying to make a system, so that way players can get recognized a little more, and especially with our own amateur team at our Johnstown Center. We have our own team with 150 players and kids from across our region. They're all coming to this team and playing and practicing and competing, and also getting to know each other. Like I said, we have kids from different school districts, not knowing who each other were before, but now the gaming kind of brought them together. They're hanging out in real life now and playing the games and doing cool stuff. And going back to my tournament, I even had someone from New Jersey, and I believe Pittsburgh, meet up for the first time. They've been gaming online for about 7-8 years, and they met each other the first time at one of my events. That was a pretty cool story to see, some lifelong friends, basically 8 years, and they finally get to meet each other in person. Yeah. It was a very cool experience to hear about that. Again, just learning about people's stories and where they come from and what they love about gaming is pretty cool to me. And I love hearing that every day. And again, that's what makes me keep going with esports, and, can't thank it enough.
Yeah, dude, no doubt. Before we sign off here, I just want to share my screen real quick to let you guys, did the screen pop up? There we go. Now it's popping up, I think.
Yeah, there we go. Yep.
So I just want to give people a chance to check these out. SethSocks.com. If you want to find his sock website, check out Johnstown Steel is the esport that now recruiting. Check that out right there, johnstownsteel.com. And then Entrepreneur U. And is this something that is like fully launched, or where are you at with launching this?
So right now we are currently in the pilot at Greater Johnstown.
Okay.
And again, it got delayed because of the coronavirus. So we're seeing if we can transition to online with our 3 students that we have currently in the pilot. But we do have about half a dozen to 10 schools interested in this entrepreneurship program for the following year. So
very cool, man. So if you want to find out more, obviously go to contact us. You can find out more about that, and then you can get the details. But Seth, thank you so much, dude. This is so cool. I love what you're doing. I love the energy and the passion and the commitment to it, and the philanthropy of helping other students out. So can't thank you enough. I know you're a busy dude, for jumping on here with me and having this conversation. I can't wait to see what you do in the future. Besides those 3 websites, if anybody wants to get a hold of you, is there any other way you suggest, anywhere to find you on social media that they can find and talk to you?
Yeah, just Seth Mason 13 on pretty much all social medias, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. If you have any questions, want to reach out, anything at all, I'm open ears. I'm definitely put you in the right direction, even open up my network pool, or just someone that I can get you in contact with, because there's opportunity out there. So it's up to you to go seek it and find it.
Cool, man. Thanks a lot.
All right. Appreciate it. Thank you.